When CHiPs roared onto TV screens in 1977, it brought sun-soaked action California highways and the cool charisma of motorcycle cops Ponch and John to millions of viewers. Starring Eric Estrada and Larry Wilcox, the hit series blended thrilling chases, humor, and heart, becoming one of the most iconic police shows of the late 70s and early 80s. But what happened to the stars who patrolled the freeways of Los Angeles after the show ended in 1983? In 2025, we catch up with the cast of CHiPs, exploring their careers, personal journeys, and how this beloved classic continues to rev its engines in pop culture history. Clarence Gilliard Jr. was born on December 24, 1955, and joined CHiPs in 1982 at age 27, portraying Officer Benjamin Webster, a disciplined, sincere, and quietly ambitious patrolman who sought to prove himself among hardened veterans. His character brought a refreshing innocence to the series' final season, a mirror of Gilliard's own early charm and drive. Yet behind his composed demeanor lay a story of deep turmoil. Growing up in a strict military household, Gilliard was often uprooted, struggling to find belonging while facing cultural isolation as one of few black students in his school. His teenage rebellion led to substance use and brief run-ins with the law, a hidden chapter he later admitted when his faith became his redemption. After earning fame in Top Gun and Die Hard, he wrestled with the darker side of Hollywood: addictive nightlife, broken relationships, and spiritual emptiness. His lowest point came during the early 90s, when his personal life collapsed after a divorce and financial strain from failed investments. Choosing faith over fame, he walked away from Hollywood, returning years later as a theater professor and devout Catholic who guided young actors. His students revered him, unaware that beneath his discipline lingered a man still haunted by guilt and loss. Gilliard died on November 28, 2022 at age 66 in Las Vegas, after a long illness kept secret from the public, a final act of quiet dignity. At the time of his death, his estate, built on acting royalties, university income, and real estate holdings, was valued at about $5 million. His passing left a sense of mystery and reverence, a man who conquered Hollywood's temptations only to retreat into faith, teaching redemption through art and restraint. Randy Oakes, born August 19, 1951 in Sumner, Iowa, was 26 when she first appeared as Officer Bonnie Clark on CHiPs 1977, the show's glamorous yet gutsy female patrol officer who shattered the gender barrier on primetime television. Bonnie was fearless and witty, balancing grace with grit, a rarity in the testosterone-driven world of cop dramas. Yet Randy's real life was a paradox of fame and fragility. She grew up poor on a Midwestern farm where beauty was her only perceived escape. At 17, she fled to New York to model, hiding a deep insecurity behind magazine covers and commercial smiles. In Hollywood, she was both celebrated and exploited, told to stay thin, stay quiet, and stay desirable. Her relationships became tabloid fodder, particularly her high-profile romance with football legend Joe Namath, whose infidelity and wild lifestyle left her emotionally wrecked. On CHiPs, she battled sexism behind the scenes, often underpaid, and dismissed by male co-stars who viewed her as decoration. Exhausted by the double standard, she walked away from the show in 1982, citing creative differences that masked a deeper disillusionment with the industry. That same year, she married actor Gregory Harrison, a union that shocked many who doubted it would last, but against the odds, it did. She left acting entirely after giving birth to their first child in 1985, retreating to a quiet life in Oregon. Rumors persisted that she struggled with body image and depression during her post-Hollywood years, though she has never spoken publicly about it. Now, 74, Oakes enjoys a private life focused on family and philanthropy, managing her husband's business ventures and volunteering for women's charities. Her net worth of roughly $3 million stems from past modeling earnings residuals and property investments. Though she disappeared from the screen, her brief but blazing career remains a reminder of Hollywood's unforgiving beauty machine and the rare strength it takes to walk away. Paul Linke, born May 6, 1948 in New York City, was 29 when he first portrayed Officer Arthur Grossi Grossman in CHiPs. 1977, the kind-hearted but often clumsy patrolman whose humor balanced the show's high-octane chases and moral undertones. Grossman's gentle demeanor and quiet loyalty endeared him to fans who saw in him the everyman among the flashy heroes. Yet behind Linke's warm smile lay a history shadowed by grief and struggle. Raised in a middle-class family scarred by emotional distance, he found refuge in storytelling but constantly battled insecurity and the fear of failure. Hollywood was not kind to him. In his early years, he faced relentless rejection for not fitting the traditional leading man mold and spent years typecast as the nice guy no one remembered. Linke's career took a devastating turn in 1986 when his wife, Francesca, died of cancer, a tragedy that shattered him completely. He spiraled into depression, barely working for years before channeling his anguish into Time Flies. When You're Alive, a one-man show that laid bare his grief and vulnerability in a way few Hollywood men dared. The show's success revived his career, but also revealed the emotional scars he carried. While he stayed clear of scandal, insiders noted his struggles with isolation and creative frustration. He turned down roles he deemed emotionally false, often at the cost of financial stability. Linke later remarried and found solace in writing and directing, yet his life has remained marked by the duality of laughter and loss. Now 77, he lives quietly in Los Angeles, teaching screenwriting and occasionally appearing in independent films. His net worth, estimated between $100,000 and $1 million, reflects a modest yet honest life, one defined not by fame or fortune, but by endurance and the courage to transform pain into art. Larry Wilcox, born August 8, 1947, was 30 when he first rode alongside Estrada in CHiPs 1977, portraying Officer John Baker, the disciplined by-the-book California cop who served as the emotional balance to Ponch's impulsive antics. Baker was the show's moral compass, an image that closely mirrored Wilcox's real-life military precision. A Vietnam veteran and decorated Marine, he brought quiet gravitas to the series, but behind that discipline lay resentment and buried trauma. Raised in poverty in Rawlins, Wyoming, Wilcox's childhood was harsh and loveless, marked by an abusive stepfather and an overworked mother. Fame did not soothe him, it amplified his anger. His on-set relationship with Estrada deteriorated quickly. Both men competed for screen time and fan attention, and by season 5, tensions had boiled into open hostility. Wilcox felt cheated by NBC executives who favored Estrada's sex appeal, and he quit before the final season, a move he later regretted. His post-CHiPs career floundered, and Hollywood largely turned its back. The failure of his 1980s production company and a string of poor investments left him nearly bankrupt. The lowest point came in 2010, when he was charged with securities fraud for an investment scheme. He pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and received probation, narrowly avoiding prison. His personal life fared little better, 3 marriages each, marked by infidelity and emotional distance, and strained relationships with his children. Friends say Wilcox wrestled with PTSD and depression, but refused therapy, burying himself in work and silence. Today at 78, he lives in California, quietly managing a modest real estate portfolio and making occasional public appearances. His net worth, between $1.5 and $2.5 million, is modest for a man who once symbolized integrity and heroism on primetime television. His story, like that of John Baker, is one of honor mixed with heartbreak. A soldier-turned-star who won the nation's respect, but lost the Hollywood War. Robert Pine, born July 10, 1941, stepped into the role of Sergeant Joseph Getreyer in 1977 at the age of 36, embodying the firm yet fatherly supervisor who kept the wild young patrolmen of CHiPs in line. Getreyer's composed authority became the moral anchor of the show, balancing Estrada's flamboyance and Wilcox's quiet stoicism. Yet off-screen, Pine's life was not as placid as his characters. Born in New York City into a struggling Irish Catholic family, his childhood was clouded by financial strain and the emotional absence of a father who worked multiple jobs. Acting was his escape, but his early years in Hollywood were riddled with rejection and humiliation. He was fired from soap operas, replaced mid-production, and typecast as the forgettable authority figure. Though Pine avoided the typical scandal that ravaged his peers, there were whispers of his intense perfectionism bordering on obsession, which caused friction with directors who labeled him too method for television. Still, he survived the Hollywood machine through sheer discipline, finding stability in his marriage to actress Gwynne Gilford, who later became a psychotherapist after leaving the industry. Their son, Chris Pine, would rise to stardom decades later, a poetic reversal of fortune that Robert watched with quiet pride and a hint of envy. Despite his apparent calm, those close to him describe bouts of melancholy that shadowed his later years, a sense of being overlooked despite decades of steady work. Today at 84, Pine remains active in Hollywood, appearing in small roles and voice work. He owns property in Los Angeles and Palm Springs, with an estimated net worth of $4 million modest, for a man whose face appeared in over 400 productions. His life stands as a paradox, a career built on consistency, in an industry addicted to chaos, a man too steady to be scandalous, yet haunted by how easily his legacy could fade. Lou Wagner, born August 14, 1940 in San Jose, California, was 38 when he joined CHiPs, 1978, as Harlan Arliss, the eccentric and undersized motorcycle mechanic who could fix anything and delivered deadpan wisdom with uncanny timing. Harlan's offbeat humor and quirky brilliance made him an unlikely cult favorite, yet Wagner's journey to that point was far from easy. Born to working-class parents during wartime America, he was a frail, undersized child who endured years of mockery from peers and indifference from teachers. Acting became both a refuge and rebellion, a way to be seen in a world that dismissed him. His breakout came with Planet of the Apes, 1968, but fame brought its own curse, typecasting, and an industry obsessed with physical perfection. By the mid-1970s, Wagner's career had stalled, and insiders whispered of his growing resentment toward Hollywood's superficiality. On CHiPs, he clashed with producers who tried to downplay Harlan's eccentricities, insisting on keeping the character's oddball charm intact. His reputation for stubbornness alienated some directors, but earned him lasting respect from co-stars. Off-screen, Wagner's personal life was quiet, but tinged with loneliness. He never married, preferring solitude, and the company of animals, maintaining a private ranch outside Los Angeles. Though free from scandal, he battled chronic health issues in later years, including severe arthritis that limited his work. Despite this, he continued to make appearances at fan conventions, known for his dry wit and humility. His financial success came not from fame, but from smart real estate investments in California and Nevada. Now 85, Wagner's net worth stands around $5 million. Though he never achieved the celebrity status of his peers, his enduring presence in Hollywood serves as a testament to resilience, eccentric brilliance, and the quiet triumph of those who refuse to conform. Erik Estrada, born March 16, 1949, was just 28 when he exploded onto television screens as Officer Frank Poncherello in CHiPs, 1977, the flirtatious, swaggering cop whose smile could stop traffic faster than his motorcycle. To millions, Ponch was irresistible, a Latino heartthrob who brought flash and humor to law enforcement. But Estrada's off-screen life mirrored the volatility of his character's charm. Growing up poor in Spanish Harlem, he was raised by a single mother after his father abandoned the family, and much of his ambition stemmed from deep-seated resentment and a hunger for validation. His sudden fame turned intoxicating. Women, money, and power surrounded him, and he indulged recklessly. He clashed bitterly with co-star Larry Wilcox, demanding higher pay and top billing, and the set became a battlefield of ego. His 1979 motorcycle crash during filming nearly ended his career. He broke several ribs and wrists, and the network temporarily replaced him with Bruce Jenner. The accident left him dependent on painkillers, and for a time he struggled privately with addiction and financial mismanagement. Estrada's career faltered in the 1980s amid rumors of arrogance and difficult behavior. His marriage to Peggy Lynn Rowe dissolved in scandal with accusations of infidelity and emotional abuse, and later relationships fared little better. In a surprising twist, he reinvented himself as a real-life reserve police officer in Muncie, Indiana, and then in Virginia, blurring the line between art and life. Still behind the badge, there was always the performer Estrada craved attention and resented the industry that had moved on. Now 76, he lives quietly in Idaho with his third wife, Nanette Mirkovich, balancing convention appearances and charity work. His $4 million net worth belies a man who once made and lost small fortunes. His name remains synonymous with the reckless charm of late 70s fame, a man forever chasing the rush of the highway he once ruled. Tig Andrews was born on March 19, 1920, and appeared in CHiPs in 1978 at the age of 58, portraying Charlie Davis, a hardened trucker and protective father whose moral compass clashed with California's changing world. His performance carried a gravity born from lived experience, a reflection of a man shaped by war trauma and perseverance. Andrews's childhood in Brooklyn was marked by poverty and ridicule. His Lebanese-Syrian heritage made him a target for racial slurs, forcing him to adopt resilience early. After enlisting in World War II, he survived a shipwreck that killed several crewmen, leaving him with lifelong scars, both physical and emotional. Hollywood initially dismissed him for his accent and heritage, but he clawed his way to prominence in the Mod Squad, where he portrayed Captain Adam Greer with stoic authority. Yet fame came with costs, typecasting, studio manipulation, and a bitter feud with network executives who pushed him aside when the show's ratings declined. Behind closed doors, Andrews was temperamental and known for perfectionism bordering on obsession. Friends described a man who drank quietly but daily, numbing the pressure of fading relevance. His greatest heartbreak came when his wife Norma Thornton fell ill, driving him to near isolation. Later in life, painting became his refuge, and his haunting canvases mirrored a mind burdened by decades of suppressed emotion. Andrews died of cardiac arrest on January 27, 2007, in Encino, California, at 86. His estate, comprising art pieces, a modest home, and residual earnings, was valued between $1 and $2 million. To this day, collectors prize his abstract paintings, viewing them as coded expressions of a life lived in quiet torment and artistic brilliance. Johnny Seven was born on February 23, 1926, and appeared in CHiPs in 1978 as Dawson when he was 52. Dawson was a rough-edged, no-nonsense patrol officer whose world-weary eyes and silent anger spoke volumes about the corruption and exhaustion beneath the badge. Fans loved the authenticity he brought, but few realized how much of Dawson came from Seven himself, a man hardened by decades of rejection, war trauma, and the unforgiving glare of Hollywood. Born John Anthony Fetto II to poor Italian immigrants in Brooklyn, he grew up in a cramped tenement, haunted by violence and alcoholism. As a boy, he was mocked for his accent and poverty, often retreating into silence, hiding his bruises, both physical and emotional. After serving in World War II, where he earned the nickname Johnny Seven for his marksmanship and bravery, he returned to the U.S., hoping acting might offer redemption. Instead, he was typecast as thugs, mobsters, and cops roles that mirrored the anger he tried to suppress. His early career was riddled with rejection, and though he found steady work in television, he became infamous for his volcanic temper. On one film set, he reportedly threw a prop gun at a producer who criticized his performance, earning him an unofficial blacklist from several studios in the mid-1960s. The collapse of his ambitious, self-funded project, Navajo Run, a Western he wrote, directed and starred in, was the greatest humiliation of his life. Critics tore it apart, and he lost nearly all his savings. Off-screen, his marriage was long but turbulent, overshadowed by jealousy and obsessive control, and his children kept their distance in later years. As the spotlight dimmed, Seven turned to real estate to survive, amassing quiet wealth, while the industry forgot him. He died on January 27, 2010, at 83 from lung cancer in Mission Hills, California. At the time of his death, his estate was worth around $2 million, including several Los Angeles rental properties. His legacy remains one of grit fire and the tragedy of a man who fought every battle but never truly found peace. William Smith was born on March 24, 1933, and appeared in CHiPs in 1980 as Michael Adams at the age of 47. Adams was a rugged firefighter, fierce and resentful, a reflection of Smith's own feral charisma and inner volatility. To fans, he was the embodiment of raw masculinity, impossibly strong, fearless, and uncompromising. But behind the iron physique was a life forged in isolation and defiance. Smith's childhood on a struggling cattle ranch in Missouri was brutal. His father was a decorated soldier. His mother, distant and disciplined in the home, bordered on cruelty. He enlisted in the Air Force, serving in intelligence during the Cold War and mastering multiple languages before turning to acting. Hollywood never quite knew what to do with him. His presence was too real, too dangerous. During the 1960s and 70s, he was feared as much as admired. He once shattered Rod Taylor's nose during a brawl and was known to walk off sets when directors challenged him. He fought steroid rumors, denied mob connections, and spent years under the shadow of his reputation as unmanageable. His dream of leading man stardom was crushed when Clint Eastwood's dominance in Any Which Way You Can left him, typecast forever as the brutal henchman. Rumors of alcoholism and womanizing dogged him, and his marriages, particularly his second, were plagued by infidelity and explosive arguments. Despite this, Smith was highly educated, reciting poetry in Russian and publishing obscure short fiction in the 1990s. He battled declining health in later life, retreating to a quiet existence filled with nostalgia and loneliness. He died on July 5, 2021, at 88, at the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, California, with the cause of death never publicly revealed, fueling speculation of dementia or suicide. His estate, valued at around $7 million, included Malibu property, vintage motorcycles, and royalties from over 300 film and television appearances. His legend endures as that of a man too wild, too smart, and too dangerous for the industry that both made and broke him. Taylor Lecker, born April 2, 1942, appeared in CHiPs in 1979 at age 37 as Harry Saunders, a Vietnam veteran consumed by grief and vengeance, a role eerily parallel to the actor's own inner battles. On-screen, Saunders' haunted eyes and moral decay captured the post-war disillusionment of America, and Locker's intensity made it one of the show's rare dramatic arcs. Off-screen, his life was stormier than his roles suggested. Born in Pittsburgh, Locker's early years were marred by an abusive father and a mother who battled depression, leaving him emotionally fractured. His rough upbringing translated into volatile energy on set, earning him a reputation as brilliant yet difficult. During the 1970s, he was briefly blacklisted after clashing with producers over pay disputes and his alleged drinking problem. His biggest career collapse came after being replaced in a major film due to erratic behavior, a humiliation that drove him to semi-retirement. Locker's personal life unraveled through 2 divorces, estranged children, and long bouts of isolation in Alabama, where he retreated from Hollywood's glare. Friends described him as haunted by regret, living frugally while painting and repairing motorcycles to stay afloat. His sudden death on June 21, 2005, at 63, shocked those few who still followed his quiet exile. No cause of death was released, adding to the mystique surrounding his final years. At the time, his estate was worth less than $1 million, mostly property, and small royalties, but his story remains a cautionary tale of raw talent, undone by demons both internal and systemic. Taylor Laker's legacy endures as that of a man too intense, too real for the polished facade of 1970s Hollywood, whose silence in death spoke louder than any performance he ever gave. Jim Brown was born on February 17, 1936, and joined CHiPs in 1979 at the age of 43, playing Romo, a smooth-talking pickpocket on roller skates, a brief but unforgettable role that allowed the former NFL icon to showcase his comedic side. Known to fans as one of the most dominant football players in history, Brown's portrayal was laced with irony, a legendary athlete pretending to be a petty thief, mirroring his lifelong dance between heroism and controversy. Born in St. Simon's Island, Georgia, Brown grew up in poverty, abandoned by his father and raised by a strict, sometimes abusive mother. His talent for sports became his escape, propelling him to NFL stardom. But fame magnified his flaws. Transitioning to acting after retirement, he became Hollywood's first black action hero, starring in The Dirty Dozen and 100 Rifles. Yet his off-screen life was marked by scandal. Brown was arrested multiple times for domestic violence and assault. Though often acquitted, the accusations stained his image permanently. His greatest career setback came in the late 1980s, when his production ventures collapsed due to mismanagement and lawsuits over unpaid wages, forcing him to liquidate assets. His relationships were equally turbulent. His marriage to Monique Brown was marked by public arguments and separations, and his affairs with models and actresses were widely reported. Despite his activism for black empowerment, critics accused him of hypocrisy for his violent temper and moral contradictions. In his later years, Brown turned toward community work and social advocacy, seeking redemption through mentorship and reform programs for young men. He died peacefully on May 18, 2023, at age 87 from natural causes at his Los Angeles home. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated between $30 and $55 million, including real estate, film royalties, and sports memorabilia. His legacy remains a complex blend of greatness and controversy, a man who conquered fields and screens, but could never fully escape the shadows of his own humanity. Warren Berlinger was born on August 31, 1937, and appeared in CHiPs in 1978 as Bickle when he was 41. His character, the fast-talking, bumbling comic relief, was a hit among audiences, his nervous humor and desperate cheer masking the melancholy underneath. Berlinger, much like Bickle, lived his life trying to make others laugh while quietly drowning in insecurity. He grew up in a working-class Brooklyn neighborhood, one of several children in a tense household where his father's failed business and his mother's illness left emotional scars. As a boy, he was teased for being overweight and effeminate, driving him toward theater as a refuge. By 9, he was on stage in Annie Get Your Gun, but success came with pressure. Hollywood's child star machine consumed him early, forcing him into constant reinvention. His transition to adult roles was fraught. Casting agents mocked his round face and quick tongue, saying he was too comedic for drama, too sad for comedy. During the 1960s, his career faltered after several flops, and a bitter dispute with a producer on Broadway got him unofficially blacklisted from certain networks. Though he was known as warm and generous, his private habits told another story: a growing gambling addiction, mood swings, and deep depression following his wife Betty Lou Keem's death after 50 years of marriage. Their relationship had been both devoted and stormy, marked by financial stress and long separations. His biggest professional heartbreak came when a sitcom he helped develop was stolen and repackaged without credit. In his later years, Berlinger appeared at fan conventions, often tearfully recalling the glory days. Cancer took his life on December 2, 2020, at age 83 in Valencia, California. At the time of his death, he left behind an estate worth about $3 million, including modest savings memorabilia and residuals from decades of steady work. Beneath his friendly public image was the poignant truth of a man who spent his life performing joy for others even as he quietly lost his own. Don Red Barry was born on January 11, 1910, and joined CHiPs in 1978 at age 68, portraying Frank Taylor, a grizzled, hot-headed old-timer whose stubbornness reflected Barry's real-life volatility. The role suited him perfectly, an old cowboy unable to adapt to modernity, clinging to faded glory. Off-screen, Barry was a storm of contradictions, charismatic, yet cruel, generous, yet vindictive. Raised in Houston during the Depression, he endured a loveless childhood under a violent father and emotionally distant mother, forcing him to build a tough persona to mask deep insecurity. His rise to fame as the original Red Ryder in the 1940s serial made him a household name, but it also inflated an ego that led to constant clashes with studio heads and fellow actors. His reputation for explosive temper and drinking binges became legendary on set. He once allegedly destroyed a director's office after a creative disagreement. His career steadily declined in the 1950s, worsened by arrests for assault and public intoxication. The biggest failure of his life was his inability to control his rage, which destroyed his reputation and alienated him from major studios. His personal life was equally chaotic: 3 failed marriages, multiple affairs, including a publicized tryst with actress Susan Hayward that ended in scandal and accusations of domestic violence. Friends described him as a man terrified of irrelevance, constantly fighting the ghosts of his fading fame. On July 17, 1980, after police responded to a domestic dispute at his North Hollywood home, Barry shot himself in the head, ending a lifetime of inner torment at age 70. He left behind an estate valued at about $500, a modest sum for a man who had once ruled the Western genre. His death encapsulated the tragic fall of a Hollywood cowboy who could never outrun his own demons. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey through classic television history. If you enjoyed learning about the cast of CHiPs and where they are now, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more vintage Hollywood retrospectives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your memories and suggestions, so let us know which TV show or movie cast you'd like us to feature next.